basically we're going to be ready to plug the battery into this thing. I'm talking the Leaf battery, the 400 volt battery, and we'll be able to test it. This is nerve-wracking, man. It was nice to be able to talk about testing it, but actually getting ready to test it and powering it up for the first time when so much could go wrong. All right, well, let's get to it. Let's get to it. All right, welcome back to EVSwap, the electric Land Cruiser. In this video, we're gonna tie up some loose ends and get ready for our first high voltage test. So we've gotta finish up some of the wiring. We've got to check out the drivetrain and make sure we've got the right fluids and everything looks good, and just finish up all the loose ends. We're also gonna install the rear auto locker and the rear differential for awesome off-road traction. So let's get into it. We are so close to being able to test this thing. So I only have three wires to hook up that are like necessary to do the test. So over there, I've stripped back the ECU, the factory ECU 12 volt power that is with the ignition. So that turns on the VCU when you turn the key. I've got under here, I have found the brake switch and which wire I want to tap into, so that when you press on the brake pedal, it sends a 12 volt signal to the Resolve VCU controller, and then that way it will know that you're pushing on the brake pedal and it disables the throttle input at that point. Okay, the last wire I just found right here is the reverse light switch. So I got a 12 volt hooked up right here. I'm gonna tap on there. Make sure we're making good contact. So that just is going straight to the battery over there. Oh, I'm not making good contact. Okay, sweet. So now we've got the reverse lights. So that's really cool. When you push reverse on to go backwards, it's going to turn on the backup lights now. Also, a cool byproduct is it indicates reverse up here on the dash. I'm going to have to do a little bit more work to get it to indicate drive. I don't know if that's possible, because part of the reason is because these lights are on when you reverse, whereas when you just drive, there's no lights, that come on just when you drive. But we could probably get them working. Anyway, I need to solder up these wires, tuck them onto the dash, over to the VCU, and basically we're going to be ready to plug the battery into this thing. I'm talking the Leaf battery, the 400 volt battery, and we'll be able to test it. This is nerve-wracking, man. It was nice to be able to talk about testing it, but actually getting ready to test it and powering it up for the first time when so much could go wrong. All right, well, let's get to it. Let's get to it. Oh, man. All right, so one of the last things I gotta do is make up some ground cables. So ordinarily, these 3 units are all grounded through each other and then through the chassis on the Leaf. But since I have them split up, what I'm gonna do is make 3 individual ground cables for them, just to go to the chassis. So that's what I'll do. I'm just gonna crimp on some connectors real quick. All right, so we are so close to starting this up and testing it. I got all the welding now done on the mounts, pretty much. All the welding done. I added this little outrigger to the front mount here, and another little nut. It's bolted there. Did all the welding on both sides. Did all the welding on the box there. And then I've got this now straight, so you can see the drive shaft is now just about perfectly straight, which is exactly what I want. Now what I'm trying to do is find my nuts, my drive shaft nuts. I don't know where they went. They must be around here somewhere because I want to put my drive shafts on, and then we're gonna test it. I gotta fill my transfer case up with fluid. I gotta fill my black box transfer case up with fluid too before I can test it, because I don't want to run them dry. And I gotta hook up my drive shafts because I want to jack it up and I want to see those wheels spin. Oh man, but like, remember before when I was pushing on it? Well, this is not going nowhere now. The motor, everything is now so, you know, tight and not rigid. It's not stiff, but it's tight. It's not going anywhere. It's all isolated with rubber. Both the transfer case and the motor are all isolated with rubber now, so this is super cool. I'm excited, man, because I want to run it with the wheels up in the air and spin it and get it up to speed and see if I'm going to have any vibration issues while I can still access everything. There's still a little bit of welding that I need to do, especially on the motor mount plate and everything. And then as soon as I finish all the welding, you know, I got to pull things out so I can put a coat of paint on them. But we are so close to testing it. This is getting really exciting and also really terrifying, because if it doesn't work, then it could fry everything, you know? Oh man, look at this thing. The electric Land Cruiser. so I dropped down the transfer case because what I got to do is figure out how to get the center diff lock to work on demand, and then also plug in the speedometer cable and figure out what other parts of the mechanism I need to keep. And I need to hook up the linkage here, and I need to hook up the linkage for the black box doubler too. So that's why I dropped it down. Also, I want to finish welding on the frame, the parts that were hard to access with the transfer case in there. And yeah, so that's why I did it. So let's do those things. All right, so what I decided I'm gonna do is I have a custom switch coming that's a really cool like rotary switch, and I'm gonna have it my center diff lock switch. So I will just hot wire the center diff control, the solenoid. I'm gonna just take the 2 wires from that and run them to my switch through relay. And then one of these 3 position switches is the center diff lock indicator switch, and that's going to turn on my light on and off to indicate the center diff is locked. So I'm going to just hot wire those 2, and then I'll cut out the rest of the stuff. And I think I'm missing a little pin for my speedo sensor, but the wiring's still good, so I have to figure out the wiring because I want to keep, make the speedo work. So I have to figure out what wires come from that sensor and connect them back into the vehicle harness wherever they go. So those are the next jobs for now. All right, so we're working now on the transfer cases. What we have to do is get the levers hooked up so that we can shift them low to high and also to neutral. Basically, the way this works is it bolts onto the automatic transmission, but since the automatic transmission is gone, this is just kind of floating out here in space like that. So what I'm gonna have to do is make a bracket that will hold this, will bolt on to those bolt holes, and then I can weld it inside the body or brace it off something somehow. I'll have to do that so that you can still shift it back and forth inside. And then also for the doubler, remember I got my second black box transfer case. What you need to do, this is the shifting lever right here that goes back and forth. But you got to bolt this guy on. This is a bracket. You can go either way. And what that does is basically it gives you leverage for your cable so it can pull against something to move that back and forth. So I'm going to go ahead and install that bracket on here, get it in position so that the next time I put the T-case in the vehicle, hopefully it's going to be the last time I put the T-case in the vehicle. I got a little bit of welding to do on it. I'm kind of waiting until I do my very first power up to do that welding. So I'm probably going to wait on that, but man, it is coming together, pushing forward. All right, so what I've done now is I got all my barb fittings installed. This bottom one here is just a plug for the moment, but I'm gonna put a temperature sensor in that hole. Then I've got my, this will probably be the out, and then over on this side will be the in, and then on the top, this will be the breather. That'll go up to the reservoir where I can top up the fluid up there. I've got the shifter cable here. I've got the breathers. These are just hoses that let the transfer case breathe, and the locking mechanism here breathe a little bit. I got all the wires sorted out for my locker, my center diff locker, and the sensor. So anyway, that's about it. I'm gonna put it back in the truck, hopefully for the last time. Yeah, that's funny. Anyway, today what we got to do is install this shifter, somehow mount it up in the truck somehow. So that's what we're gonna do today. All right, so here's the plan. This is the plate that goes inside on the floor of the vehicle, and then this is where the shift levers come through. So originally this stock transfer case lever came through this grommet here, and then over on the side you had the automatic transmission lever that you would move here, and it would be bolted to this plate. And then there's a rod that goes through this axle housing basically, so that another rod can go down, and then it would pivot down below. So what I need to do is I'm going to cut this out, or at least part of it out, because this is the bracket with that for my new black box doubler. For this cable here comes into this bracket. So what I'm going to do is mount this bracket underneath so that that hole lines up with that hole, and then I can bolt it through and everything, and that way I'll have two transfer case levers right next to each other like stock, and it's gonna be awesome. So that's what I'm working on now. I gotta chop this guy off. All right, check it out. So there's the bracket for the black box transfer case. Here's the grommet for the stock transfer case. How freaking cool is that? We're lined up with the factory hole. So it's just gonna, awesome, awesome, awesome. We got this painted. Some rattle can. Oh man, awesome. We're putting the transfer case back in, hopefully for the last time. I have figured out the transfer, or the, oh, I should paint that. I'm gonna put a quick coat of paint on. All right. Oh man, every time I look up in here at this whole mechanism and everything, I just get giddy with laughter. It's so cool. All right, right now I'm trying to line up all these bolt holes. We're pretty close, and then we'll be able to get the tail shaft up. I'm gonna bump it down a little bit. Ow! Damn it! Alright, this is gonna go. Shit. Oh, man. Alright. So what we're gonna do next is connect up the transfer case shifters. This one I might have to adjust. Shoot, I need a third hand. Frick, dude. Okay, I need to put a pin on that frickin' cotter pin before I lose it.
The hard part is like you pretty much like, so the way this sits, right, is this guy's like just a cap for the axle shaft kind of on the inside, and then between them it gives you basically like a little window. So you squeeze the dowel pin in first and then the spring goes behind it.
Right.
These are, yeah, definitely different.
Put this in there first.
You pretty much have to assemble this whole thing and then like squeezing it in there. Like, that's the only, otherwise, like, trying to get everything.
Let's do it. So we got the dowels with little springs on them. All four. Just need to tighten up this bolt, the pin. A little bit of a setback on this frickin' diff. So you remember we installed the auto locker, which helps to lock the tires together when you're off-roading. Well, it's supposed to have these splines in here that engage with the axle. You can see those, all the splines in there. Well, I didn't even notice this till I was trying to shove the axle in and it wouldn't go in. But there's no splines cut in this side. You see that? Where they're supposed to be, there's none. So all that work was for nothing. I bought this thing secondhand from some guy on a forum somewhere, so likely won't get my money back. I'm just gonna have to deal with it, you know. So I bought another one. It'll be here in a week, so the diff's just gonna sit here for a week. But I'm gonna spin the motor and finish up all the wiring and everything, because we need to do that anyway. So that's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna mount my OLED display. I'm gonna update the firmware on the Resolve. I'm going to wire my throttle pedal, the switches, everything like that, and we'll test that motor. We'll get that motor spinning. Let's do it. All right, thanks for watching another episode of the Electric Land Cruiser. You're gonna definitely wanna subscribe to the channel, because in the next episode, we're gonna power up the truck for the first time and we're gonna spin the motor, and it's gonna be awesome. Stay tuned.